Your call has been forwarded to voicemail.
Okay. Was that
That
Todd
was
Geary or?
Todd Geary.
Okay, well, that's all right. Hold on. We'll keep trying until we reach him if we can. If we can. Otherwise, he'll call in the middle of whatever. Hey, I'll talk with you.
Let me see.
Who?
I'll see if he was going to pick up.
Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita. It's a joy to be with you this Sunday morning. Can you believe we're already basically into a quarter of the year? And I've got whiplash, Ryan Lee, Miss Greenville. You know, I have to call you Greenville. You and my father hail from the same place.
Yes.
Our people are from the same spot in South Carolina. How you doing this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm doing well. Let me ask you this: have you been watching? Well, one cannot help but see all of the activity coming out of Washington, right? The Doge cuts, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, and the fear that that's aroused. I mean, these are people's jobs, right? And this is how you pay your mortgage, how you pay your rent, how you send your children to school, how you eat from day to day. Then you've got inflation, which has not come down, and the president is saying, well, it's going to be a little bit more complicated. Yeah, and I think he should call them into the office the way he calls other people on the carpet, because it has been proved that these prices have been raised arbitrarily by companies just for their profits. That's all that they've been doing. They haven't been paying their workers more. They haven't been doing any of that. And the people are hurting. And so you had a lot of people who voted for President Trump. And let me just say this. On the Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson show, we don't fault anyone for how you voted. We really encourage everyone to vote. Now, we had our preference. That having been said, we respect the choice that anyone has made. However, I do believe that a lot of people who voted for President Trump, while they were justifiably bothered by fraud, and I guess I conflated words fraud and waste and abuse in the system. Many people didn't think that Doge meant them. And it was like, yeah, you too. Yeah. I mean, because now you have got a cabinet secretary in the Trump White House, the Commerce Secretary. He said that only the fraudsters will complain if their Social Security checks don't arrive. Now, mind you, Elon Musk has already said we've made some mistakes, and that's human. To err is human, to forgive divine. It's just hard to forgive because, you know, when you go to the grocery store, they don't do credit. You've got to pay or you can't play. You can't get any food. So uh, it turns out that this man, Howard Lutnick, who is a billionaire, appeared on a podcast, All In, hosted by four billionaire besties. Oh, yeah, on Thursday. And this is a clip of his interview, just a few seconds, but the interview was almost 2 hours. It was an hour and 45 minutes. And he told two of the hosts that if the Social Security Administration didn't send out checks this month, his 94-year-old mother-in-law wouldn't call and complain. Well, I guess not. But, quote, a fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming and yelling and complaining, close quote. Now, he has an estimated net worth of $2 billion. I don't think he'd be able to stay married long if he let his mother-in-law go hungry.
Oh, of course she would.
Oh, I know my parents been together a long time. That never would have happened. And so, what do you think about that, everybody? He's saying that only the fraudsters will complain. Um, the fact is, the Social Security system has a cutoff, a little more than 100 years of age, because they don't expect people to live that long. So, you know, that's why when people live past 100, 102, 105 years of age, you know, they make news because number one, it's an extraordinary long period of time to live. But most people don't live that long. Most people don't become what they call centenarians. They don't. An octogenarian, that's tough, getting to 80. And most black men don't get there. So, you know, let's talk about this. I mean, what is going on here? And what will the Democrats do? Now, many Democrats are very, very angered by the fact that Chuck Schumer compromised and said, okay, we're going to let this budget pass because if we let the government, if we let it close, that's going to be a bigger set of problems. Democrats said, no, 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 no. You need 60 votes to get anything through in the Senate. That's your lever. You got to leverage your power here. That did not happen. So many people are calling for even AOC, who's a New Yorker as well, to run for his seat. There's a real shakeup. Now, where will this go? I don't know. So I want you all to call us at 866-594-4673. 866-594-HOPE. I want to know what you're going through. Hey, Barbara Jean. Hey, Bernadette. Good morning. Priscilla, how you doing? K-Mac. Daryl, sending you all so much love today. Have you heard anything from our elders down in Greenville, South Carolina? Are people afraid, or I mean, what are they saying?
Yeah, I think it's a
Brian?
lot of concern. It's a lot of afraid. It's a lot of what's the new normal going to look like. I think with a lot of elderly, but also people my age, it's a lot of what's going on with this inflation,
Mhm.
the cost of eggs, and then I think it's the concern of with the inflation, is it ever going to come down?
So, are you able to? Because many people are saying that they cannot work, say, in a Chicago, which used to be the most affordable big city in the country, out of the big three, out of New York, LA. Chicago was the city where you could get a bungalow, you could get a nice little house, you could live a nice middle class life. We even had public housing, a lot of that. But when they eliminated Robert Taylor homes, that was 100,000 people. Boom, pushed not just out of there, but out of Chicago. We've lost 300,000 Black people alone in Chicago. People cannot afford all over the country to rent, not own, rent an apartment and work in that same city.
Yep.
So is that now how you're not 40?
31.
Okay, so that's a concern for you.
Yes. And there's a lot of people I know my age that are either one, have moved down south for cheaper living because like you said, let's not even talk about ownership. They can't even afford rent to live in Chicago. Or there are a lot of people my age that have lived in this city and are now moving back home to stay with their parents or family because they too cannot afford. Or I know people that are living in the city and have had to get a second job on top of their full-time career job to afford this cost of living.
Because I mean, when you see a lot of the Uber drivers,
yes,
I mean,
DoorDash drivers.
I can't get angry with anyone because they're trying to get as many calls as they can because they got to make their money. I'm not mad at anybody. But that was not the promise. That's not the American promise. That's not the American dream. It's turning into a nightmare. And so I want to hear what everybody has to say. I want to know what you're going through. 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673. Because if you're going through this at 31, just go with me for a minute because I'm wondering, are you able to save to buy anything?
In this climate that we're in, no. In this climate that we're in, I feel like a lot of people my age, we are making enough to just be like, I'm going to keep going day by day.
Payday to Monday.
Yep.
Lynn Richardson wrote that book. It's original to me.
The thought of, I'm making money, I'm saving, I'm building, I'm trying to build generational wealth and all that can't be the conversation right now.
Why not?
Because of one of the economy, inflation, the way gas prices are, just the normal day-to-day living cost from when I remember being younger, seeing what the price was to what it is now. It's not attainable.
So buying,
and then you have a lot of jobs that are saying, we understand inflation, we understand the cost of living is more, but we're not paying more.
So the salaries have stayed the same.
Exactly.
And sometimes they've gone to hourly wages.
Yes.
So you're not.
Or a lot of, unfortunately, the world we're in, a lot of people are getting laid off. Companies are going through it.
Yeah. So it's not just in the public sector.
Yeah.
It's in the private sector.
Yeah.
We're seeing that too. So, I mean, and you're seeing a reordering of the world order. I mean, there's a lot that's going on. It's not just this. I mean, there's a lot going on, everybody. And remember, war drives a lot of economies. So while President Trump is pushing to end this Ukrainian conflict, however you feel about it, you lost 1 million people. They've died, they've been killed, or they've been injured over there. Most of them Ukrainian. That you got to end it. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Europe is arming up, but most European economies, the Western economies in particular, are doing poorly. And how do you make money? War. Now that's the perverseness of the world today, that you have to kill people to make money. That is not the way that God has it planned. So, hey, Renee Criswell, I want you all to call us at 866-594-HOPE, 866-594-4673, because we actually do have a crisis here. You have these town hall meetings, and initially you saw the Republicans taking heat. They were, people were shouting, do your job. Number one, the town hall meetings were full. Town hall meetings that congresspersons have generally, well, depending upon what's going on, they may or may not be full, and they may or may not have a whole lot of them. Now, from coast to coast, they are packed. First, it was the Republicans who were taking heat. Now it's the Democrats who are taking heat. The Republicans were hearing, do your job, do your job. People are standing up and they're saying, wait. And these are in red districts that went for Trump. They are like, look, hey, do you know I'm losing my job? Do you know I'm losing my benefits? I'm hearing that I'm not going to get my Social Security check. Are you serious right now? And some of the congresspersons have been very empathetic or sympathetic. Others have said, well, we're trying to attack the waste, the fraud, the abuse. People start booing. They're like, are you joking? I'm not fraudulent. I did not flunk my audit 7 times like the Pentagon did. 7 consecutive times. 7. 7. That's a flunking grade in any school. To me, if you're going to look for fraud and waste and abuse, you start there. You don't call Social Security a Ponzi scheme. Not when you take it out of my check every pay period. Are you for real? So I want to know what you're going through, how you feel. Hey, hello, Renee. And I want you all to let us know what your thoughts are, because this is very real. And I mean, now Democrats are feeling it, as Bernie Sanders has been on a tour attacking the oligarchy. And it's been growing.
It's the one in Arizona, I believe.
Yeah.
The other day, 30,000, 34,000.
Oh yeah. I mean, they've had to move outdoors.
It's crazy.
Because in many places they don't have stadia that can accommodate. They thought they might get 1,000, a couple thousand. No. They get there and people will be down the block. They said, okay, so we need to get an arena, a theater that holds 5,000-6,000 people. No, 5,000-6,000 people will be outside. Okay, we're going to get a small stadium, 10,000 people will be outside. So he's just like, hey, it's going into the spring, so we're just going to be outdoors. And you're seeing tens of thousands of people show up for all of them. And a Semaphore reporter said, I was at one of these rallies and I was hard pressed to find a Bernie supporter. Many of them voted for Trump. I'm not blaming anybody for any of that, because people are voting because quite frankly, they're kind of back where they started. Because remember, in 2016, voters were torn between, or they toggled between Trump and Bernie because they wanted change agents. They just wanted someone to go in there and talk the way Trump talks and the way Bernie talks and tear up the system, because it already was not working for people almost 10 years ago. And in 2008, when we elected Barack Obama, by the way. Because when the system crashed in 2008, and that's what happened when Goldman Sachs went to Nancy Pelosi with a 2.5-page document and said, if you don't give us $770 billion, right now, the economy will be crashed in 3 days. I think this is on a Friday. They said on Monday, the system will be crashed. And so people were angered then, Ryan. They were furious then.
Yep.
So there have been, and then before that, you had the housing market crash at the beginning of the millennium, the new millennium. So there's been a rising anger. That's where the Tea Party and Occupy and all of these different movements have come from.
Mhm.
But now it seems like something's a little different. It seems like something's a little different. And I want to know from you if you think that this will continue. Will this build? Or is this a flash in the pan? Will this anger build? Or will this be a flash in the pan? I think that the anger will build.
I do too.
Why do you think it will?
I think people are frustrated right now. I think people want change. I think people want answers. And for me, when I saw the people that were very pro-Trump and voted for Trump now turn on him, that's when I said, "Oh, this is different.
Oh yeah,
This is different."
Because it was never about him,
Right.
and it's not even about Bernie.
Mm-mm.
It's about someone who's going to carry the torch,
Yes,
and make the change.
Mm-hmm.
The piece that I don't want us to miss is that you are the change agents.
Mm.
The government is of, for, and by you. These people govern by your consent.
Yep.
That's why you've got to vote. And that's why you have to understand that voting is the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. Once you vote, then you really have to get on top of the people you have voted for
Right.
so that they will do what it is that you need them to do. Because guess what? You have lobbying groups, which we're now talking about, who meet the congressmen in both houses, in the U.S. Senate and in the House of Representatives. They meet them at the door. They meet the president at the door. Whether they are billionaires, almost trillionaires, or if they are lobbying groups who work for the billionaires and the near trillionaires, the rising trillionaires. But your lobbying group are the civil rights organizations, are the organizations that make the case for the LGBTQ plus community, that make the case for the Black and brown and women and Asian, all of these communities. And the thing is, if you pull all these people together, we're the majority. But we're the ones who are going to have to make this change. You can't wait for somebody else to do it. So we're going to have attorney Todd Eury, but he's Pastor Todd Eury. He's going to be speaking very soon at the Douglas Memorial Community Church, iconic church in Baltimore. They do a lot of great things there, you know. Of course, Senator Warnock pastored there before he moved down to Atlanta. And so we want to hear from Reverend Dr. Eury because he's in Baltimore. What'd you say? Where you're seeing a lot of pain. You've got the Department of Education eliminated. What's going to happen to our children with special needs? Who's going to advocate for them? Who's going to advocate for children who clog up this prison to school the school to prison pipeline? That's the Office of Civil Rights. Mm-hmm. When our children are many times more likely, Black children, to be suspended or expelled from school. See, charter schools, all of them don't have to take you.
Yep.
Public schools must take everyone, and therefore they must accommodate everyone. When you eliminate the Department of Education, a lot of accommodations will not be made. What about people who have learning differences? There's a lot going on. We've got Reverend Dr. Todd Eury coming up very, very shortly just to talk with us about what he's seeing. We will also be talking with John Nichols about this consequential Supreme Court race up in Wisconsin. Then we're going to have Dr. David Gibbs, who will be talking to us about the history of these uprisings in the United States of America. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive with Santita Jackson and Ryan Lee from Greenville. Greenville in just a few minutes.
World won't get no better if we just let it be. World won't get no better. We gotta change it.
Your opinion counts.
I'll call him.
All right, Reverend Eury is on the same tip. Send to
Okay. Okay.
Can you can hear Reverend Yuri.
Okay, Reverend Yuri,
Good morning.
how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. What's going on? What's going on where you are?
Lots of pain. I was with Congressman Ivey yesterday. He's had some of the more engaging town hall meetings.
Oh,
but I think they all have.
that's a charitable way of putting it, but that's good.
You
And,
know,
and he's such a nice guy. I think that's the thing. You know, he's a really, really nice guy. And he is like, I know he's bewildered. Like, what? I didn't do it.
yeah, he hasn't taken it as if it's coming at him. I think it is helping to guide it and channel it.
Mm-hmm.
So that there are responses to the people's concerns. So he's still logging the times that Senator Also Brooks. I think the entire delegation from the state of Maryland has been pretty focused on hearing from as many people as they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, you're in a very unique position being in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, everybody, just for those of you who don't know, because, you know, we're streaming on Facebook and other platforms right now. Indeed, the wealthiest Black county in the United States is PG County, Prince George's County, and a good many of them are high-level government workers. I don't need to tell you that. That's where you are. And so when we come back up, I want you to speak to all of that. Because it's throwing everybody back. Okay, we're coming up.
You're listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Call 1-866-594-HOPE. That's 1-866-594-4673.
Wow. Well, what is going on? Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Thank you, Ryan Lee. I'm Santita Jackson.
That's how we feel.
That's how we feel. But you know, there is a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if we sit down, if we sit down, if we're still long enough and really let cooler heads prevail, we can work this out. We can work it out. But what did you say? We've got to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
We got to find a way because a lot of people are in a lot of pain, and it's a frightening time. You know, when you have a Secretary of Commerce Lutnick say, well, you know, those of you who whine and complain, who, you know, the people who don't get the checks, it's like, wait a minute, you all are the fraudsters, and he's a billionaire. Conservative estimates put his wealth at $2 billion. I mean, how insensitive can you be? But he was on a podcast of 4 besties who are billionaires. Are you serious right now? When people live from payday to Monday, most Americans can't pull together $400 to $500 for an emergency. And you are a sickness away with the best of insurance from bankruptcy. That's a prime driver of bankruptcy in the United States are your healthcare bills. I'm always surprised. I'm always amazed. I go to the doctor. And I go regularly. You know, I've been straight up with everyone about I don't have health issues. I had a surgery some years ago that enabled me to lose more than 200 pounds. So, but part of what I pay, part of what I got to do is I'm committed to doctors for the rest of my life. And what's shocking, I know you're looking at me like, I can't imagine you with 200 extra pounds, but it's 240 to be exact. And yes, that was true. Yes, when I started here, that's what it was. But what was the beauty of it is that I was able to get help because I had solid insurance. But the other piece is this: whenever I go to the doctor, I'm always amazed when I come home and I got a bill. Yeah. I'm like, but I paid the copay. I thought that was it. They're like, no, you owe $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 more dollars. Wait a minute, what? Wait,
with the insurance.
I said, what? Wait. Reverend Dr. Todd Yuri, Esquire. Oh my gosh, you got to help me because you are also in one of these cities where you're in Baltimore at the Douglas Memorial Community Church, one of our iconic churches. You've got Abyssinian in New York. You've got Ebenezer in Atlanta. You've got Fellowship here. You've got New Covenant. You got a lot of them in Chicago. You do, but you have them all over the country, and this is one of those churches that has really been a. It has really been really an ancient landmark in our community for generations, and now they have this brilliant pastor, Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, who's a member of the family here. I want to know. Reverend Dr. Yeary, what are you seeing in Baltimore? As we see that we've heard about the challenges that you all are having educationally, I got a lot of questions for you. I want to know what you're going to do without a Department of Education. But before we get there, you got people who, your former governor, who used to be the head of the Social Security Administration, Governor O'Malley, said what about a month ago? He said 30 to 90 days. The system is going to collapse. Checks will not be dispensed. Now you've got the Secretary of Commerce almost mocking people. He said only fraudsters will complain if their Social Security checks don't arrive. He was on a podcast, All In, hosted by 4 billionaire besties. And he said his 94-year-old mother-in-law, quote, wouldn't call and complain, quote, close quote, but, quote, a fraudster always makes the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, and complaining, close quote. Wow. So what do you make of this? Because we're watching the meetings, and just, begin where you want to. But I mean, our dear friend, Congressman Glenn Ivey, and our dear friend, Senator Angela Also Brooks, they are quite concerned. The whole Maryland delegation is, and quite frankly, everybody is. What are you seeing where you are?
Well, good morning, Santita, and to my good brother from Greenville.
That's right. It's Greenville, not Greenville. Greenville. That's right. Oh my goodness.
You're sensing is a lot of frustration and a lot of concern because there is no clarity on what's going on with the government. It is just from one chaotic act to another. And because these are, I think they're designed to get a reaction to distract from what the bigger issue is, which is the reframing of the functions of government from the inside out. It has caused not only a concern about where we are, but also where we're going. Just yesterday, I was actually in Prince George's County at Second Baptist Church. We were on a panel having a conversation to hear from people. What are their concerns? How are we talking them through what they're doing? Some of the government workers were asking questions. What if this early, quote, buyout comes up again? And the congressman was very candid that even the offer that 77,000 or so people have taken, those funds have not been appropriated. Not only that, you have basically the president saying, I'm going to pay you not to work, which is a crime in most places. And so he's enticing people to break the law so that he can give the sense that he's going to reduce government. And at the same time, you have folks who, one woman was a scientist. She had been on the job less than a week before she had got notice that the new job she was taking was gone.
Oh, thank you.
And so stories, and we talk about these concerns, folks are really trying to figure out not just what is the president doing, but how am I going to make it, because I can't understand or make sense of what the president is doing. And so this frustration, government contractors whose contracts have been ended suddenly. You have folks who are connected to folks who work in the government, work with government contractors, who are trying to figure out, what am I going to do? What am I going to be able to pay my mortgage? Am I going to be able to take care of my essential needs? That frustration is ringing true no matter where you are. And when you mention the Social Security Administration, it's headquartered right here in Baltimore, right outside the city limits. It is It is the Health and Human Services, NIH, right in Montgomery County. Prince George's County, the new FBI headquarters building was going to be, I think they even started the site excavation for where it would be built. And so you have this recognition that when we think about particularly the Black and brown middle class in many instances has been able to come to be because we finally had access to public sector jobs that had historically excluded us and would not even serve us. And now all of a sudden, we feel like we have been targeted. And so that frustration is palatable. It is very focused and precise. And these are folks who are, first of all, they're in survival mode, but they're also taking an account of who has contributed to the pain that I'm feeling because I'm going to have to resist it with everything that is in my being. And so that has been kind of the standard theme throughout. And they want action from the party that should be in resistance mode, should be holding folks accountable in this process. And I think they are disappointed that they're not seeing more of an effort, an overt effort on the part of the elected officials to make sure that this administration can't do the kind of reckless harm that it has been allowed to do in just 2 months' time.
You know, we have Congressman Jonathan Jackson, your dear friend, with us today from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. And Congressman Jackson, what are you seeing? And of course, we've got Reverend Dr. Todd Geary with us, who's in Baltimore with your colleague, Congressman Glenn Ivey and Senator Angela Alsobrooks.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Reverend Todd Geary, very capable minister and lawyer and activist. So thank you for the work you do. Good morning, Santita.
Good morning.
You know, it's pretty bad when your boss has resentment for you as a worker. You're talking about the commander-in-chief, the person that leads the military, that's now scrubbing the pages from Arlington Cemetery to veteran services to the elimination of veterans programs, having disdain for the workforce of the United States military. Let's not forget, and he said it clearly, he says, I don't have much respect for the people that got captured in war when he was talking and mocking about Senator John McCain. It didn't stop there. Now you're seeing this play out all the way to Main Street. This man has a disdain for the public workforce, and now his new best buddy, his bromance, and that is Mr. Elon Musk. Mr. Musk is standing on a stage with a chainsaw, gloating, bragging about having taken down people's jobs, disrupted their livelihood, thrown off their career, their mission in life. Some people wake up not with the idea of making money every day and creating companies. Some people wake up with the idea every day of serving people, helping people. And that's a passion they have. And that's what civil service allows you the opportunity to do. And so they also have an end game in conclusion towards privatization. And they say, oh, these people are working this for free. These people are working. No, it's the largest concentration of billionaires. These persons are coming here with a philanthropic twist. And this really is not about government efficiency. That's the guise of it. And what they're doing is they are so destroying these agencies. People in a few months are going to say, this doesn't work, the Postal Service. This doesn't work, Amtrak. This doesn't work, my payments and my health care. Then you're going to create another problem. Oh, so therefore we need to privatize it. The government just couldn't get it right. Well, not after you destroyed it. And so right now, the first wave, if you will, the first stage is eliminating the people that do the work. Then there's going to be anger about government's not operating efficiently. Then the second wave is going to be the solution is let's privatize. So all of this is a racket to get towards privatization. So those persons that are over those agencies can then enrich themselves and their friends.
What do you think? What are your colleagues saying about the anger? Is anyone discussing that? I mean, because there's a lot of frustration. I mean, and it seems like the corporate media have been caught by surprise. I think everybody's been caught by surprise. Even your speaker told the Republican caucus don't have any more meetings, but they can't get around that, Congressman. They've got to have them.
I gotta find this one group. I think the group is called Democracy Forward. They're a group that's actually done quite a bit of good work. And I must say, there is a leadership problem within the party. I stand by the leadership of Hakeem Jeffries. He's done a great job. When we had to take our vote, we stuck together. 213 Democrats, only 214 in the House of Representatives. We all voted together. One went AWOL, but then one Republican stood with us. So the vote was 214 to 217. On that floor that day, we stayed there for 2 hours. No vote was called for the speaker to time us in. They dismissed us. People left. We thought the reconciliation wasn't going to happen, just simply the continuation of the budget. We thought we were going to inevitably reach the cliff for the debt ceiling and then have to confess the issues that Republicans are doing. Then we get an emergency call to come back within the hour. We're like, is this for real? Yes, they want us to come back and have a vote immediately. Well, we sat around the floor for 2 hours without the vote being called. People on the way out the door, on the way home. We all jumped back in cars and came back over there. Mr. Trump and others put the squeeze on those holdouts of the party on the Republican side and made them jump on board. They were unwilling, but considering that Elon Musk could put up whatever amount of money to primary you, these officials are operating in fear. So they came back and voted for him 217. The final break stop, the last exit, the last speed bump was for the United States Senate to give them 8 votes. So their 52 would be 60. So they could pass this budget. And the Senate, those Democrats caved in. So the House Democrats held the line and the Senate Democrats caved in. So yes, there was a lack of leadership over there. And you know my saying, I don't like to fix the blame, I like to fix the problem. But the Senate caved in. What they did was wrong. That's not what had been agreed to with members in the House. And it's been wrong all along. So the group I was talking about, Democracy Forward, they read the 922-page document on Project 2025. They indexed and tabbed all the things that he said. They took Donald Trump at his word. They were prepared on day one for his mass firing and started filing lawsuits. This independent organization has been the blocker, has been the one getting people their jobs back. So people in the Senate are acting like they didn't see the return of Donald Trump that led an insurrection, Donald Trump that had that was there and wouldn't let the police and the Capitol Police get the command to defend themselves. Donald Trump is the person that returned back that had this document printed with all of his colleagues. Why were they surprised? And they did nothing. So yes, people should be angry. I'm angry. And there should be some new leadership on the Senate side.
Reverend Dr. Erie, before we go to break, what's your response? Because people were surprised to see Congressman Glenn Ivey taking some incoming fire at his town hall meeting.
Well, I think folks are not appreciating what they're seeing. When I've spoken with the congressman, he doesn't see it as taking fire.
Mm-hmm.
He sees it as necessary to the essential conversation of the moment, so that when he goes back up on the Hill, he doesn't have a misunderstanding about where his constituents are. They're frustrated, they're angry, they're hurting, they're concerned. And so he has to be able to channel that. He can't channel what's not presented to him. And so this notion that somehow or other we have to put a damper on how we engage our elected officials. We're not threatening them. We're certainly not trying to assault or intimidate them, but we're certainly trying to communicate with them clearly so that when they are in the insulation and the isolation that is often the chambers of Congress, that they don't assume that just because they can't hear the noise when they're standing on the floor, that they somehow are disconnected from the pain that the people are feeling when they get back to the district. And so that's the conversation that has to be held and carried on so that there is this resonance that propels, gives actually the elected officials the cover that they need to dig in their heels and fight for the needs of the folks that are most vulnerable in this moment, because this government has not been bashful about saying they are literally coming after the people of the country who run and work for the government each and every day, who serve in the military, and they are unapologetic about it. As a matter of fact, every day they take time to double down from the day before to let everybody know that the country is literally under assault. And when folks are coming at you, you got to do everything that's within you to make sure that you fight back.
Back with more on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hope you will join us at the Push Saturday Morning Forum every Saturday on the Word Network from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. You can join us in person here in Chicago at 930 East 50th Street. The crowds are growing there too. Congressman Jackson, when he is in town, he is speaking there on Saturdays. And we want to hear from you. We want you to show up so that we can engage you and find out what's going on with you. And I want you to call 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, so that you can let everybody know, particularly the Republicans, just what you need. I think Jonathan, Congressman Jackson, pardon me, that was a slip. He's my brother. Oh, gosh. I think that they need some encouragement. They need to be shown the way. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Coming up.
Congressman, I'm sorry.
Sure, please.
I'm
Good to hear your voice. Good to hear you, Reverend Yuri.
trying.
Good morning, sir. How you doing?
I'm trying.
All is great. Great to hear your voice, man. Keep it going.
Likewise.
Let me say, girl, please. My mother's sister calls her Mrs. Jackson in person. I said, well, what are you doing? She said, to remind people that they should call her that. They shouldn't call her by her first name. She said, so if I do it, I was like, whatever. This is your sister. Y'all are closer than this. I mean, I don't get it, whatever. Okay. But I understand that.
Yeah.
So, Congressman Jackson?
What's going on? How are you?
I love you, honey. Did you see what the Commerce Secretary Lutnick, did you know he was on this? And Reverend Dr. Yuri, there's a podcast it's a podcast hosted by 4 billionaire besties. That's how they term themselves. And this is where he made the comment about those who didn't receive their checks, screaming the loudest noise, screaming, yelling, complaining, and they're the fraudsters. Did you see that?
Yep.
What is up with these people?
He says his 94-year-old mother-in-law. If you don't hear it, it's fraud. If they start screaming, it's fraud.
Like a thumb drive, DVD, or the cloud.
Help me.
Well, what that says to
Can
me.
you turn that radio down a little bit in the background when we go back on the air?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, what
This is feedback and sounds like I'm talking to myself.
Okay, how can we remedy that? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, and Congressman, I don't know if this is the sense that you get, but when I hear that comment, it says that this conduct from this government isn't reckless; it's intentional. And when they've fought through, who they're expecting to hear from? The folks who are complicit, who are supportive of, who are somehow in alignment with what the government is doing. They're allies, but the folks who are complaining because the pain is real and the challenges are overwhelming, that somehow or other they are taking advantage of the government. He's actually flipped the narrative that instead of having to be protected from government, the government has to be protected from us. Where do we get that kind of reasoning except from someone who is trying to create a false narrative to be able to totally dismantle the functions of government and be in a position where this administration, in very short order, is not only going to dismiss what the courts say, they're going to render and believe that somehow or other the Congress has nothing to say at all, except when it's time to go back and get that budget. And because you have a Republican caucus that is totally sold out and has disavowed the notion of three independent branches of government, that now you no longer have a Congress as long as the Republicans are in order. You just have the administrative wing of the executive branch of the government known as the House of Representatives and the Senate.
You should read them.
Oh, 100%. And I think the Democrats, and I'm pushing forward, and they've got to make it make sense to people. They don't use the word totalitarianism. Okay, who talks like that? But we're going through an era of censorship and government control, and that's what Mr. Trump is doing. Telling Columbia University, I'm going to pull your funding. Telling the governor of Maine, I'm going to pull your funding. Going to University of Pennsylvania, I'm going to pull your funding.
Hold on, Congressman.
Yeah.
We're going to have 90 seconds. I'm going to give you those remarks. Hey, everybody. Stay tuned for the second hour of Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson, 866-594-HOPE. Congressman Jonathan Jackson, what say you, and what should we do?
First of all, what the government is doing now, Mr. Trump is going through intimidation. When you have the nation's largest law firms that have been served papers that say you cannot have diversity and inclusion, when you tell the nation's largest law firms, I am rescinding your security clearance, you cannot defend your clients, you cannot make money unless you capitulate, unless you kowtow and bow down to me. He wants the Maine governor, the governor of Maine, to apologize to him when he's threatening to withhold her funds. He doesn't owe him an apology. He's telling major law firms, you have to give me services for things that I direct. When you tell us the Attorney General of the United States works for the president and not for the people of the United States, that's having government control. When you take down the website and references to the historical achievements of Jackie Robinson from his grave in Arlington, that is government control, and that is overreach. So one of the things that people need to do, you have to call United States Senators, both Democrats and Republicans, at 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121. We have to have massive turnout. This is only the beginning. These are the people that you're seeing out in the streets in large part, people that are concerned citizens that have lost their jobs and others that know what's happening. But wait until the cuts come into effect.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. I want you to... just stay right there. We'll be back with more on Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes.
Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit our website at www.keephopealiveradio.com.
You can keep talking to the people. We got a minute.
Oh, so this is the challenge, and it's going to get really real for some people. Some people are feeling it now. Those that have lost the scientific jobs, NIH is not a total disaster. When you go in and you fire without any strategy or any sort of intelligent decision making, the people that were hired in the last 2 years, 5 years from now, you're going to see people retiring, and you're not going to see a flow of people that are filling their jobs and have the expertise to deal with public health. That's just one agency. When it wants to eliminate the Consumer Financial Protection Board, you're talking about a board that was established with Congresswoman Maxine Waters and Elizabeth Warren, that when banks commit fraud, the government has the resources to sue them, and they end up paying the fines and the fees. This agency, which doesn't get any government funding, it simply lives off the funds of the fees that they are recovering on behalf of United States citizens. That democracy has been gutted. So if a bank that has infinite resources is fraud, who holds them accountable? There's not a public entity, and there are really not that many private entities that have the expertise or the financial health strength backing
Hold that
to
thought.
be able to sue them.
Hold that thought, honey. I'm going to give you my opening remarks. Hey, everybody. Keep Up Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm Santita Jackson. We're talking about the rising anger in America today. Congressman Jonathan Jackson of the 1st Congressional District is with us, as is Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary, Esquire, brilliant pastor from Rainbow Push, but he's also the senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland, one of our iconic churches. And we're going to have John Nichols up in a few minutes. They're having a big race for the to see who's going to head up the Supreme Court in Wisconsin. And the Democrats are going hard in on the Black community. Will it work? But you were telling us about that we're at the beginning of this crisis, Congressman Jackson. You said it's about to get real for people. What do you mean?
Think about Medicaid. I want to narrow my remarks because it's so broad, this amnesty you're doing with this wrecking ball. If you just focus on Medicaid, 60% of the people in America in nursing homes are there because of Medicaid. And they're already strained. And the population is getting older. So more people are coming, and there's going to be less capacity. They're cutting. Those cuts in Medicaid will affect people in nursing homes. 41% of all the children born in America are born through Medicaid dollars and services. Just those two things, at the beginning of life and at the end of life, when you start cutting the Medicaid because of the cuts that they're proposing, you're going to have enormous problems in life expectancy. But you have to understand the mentality of the people that are doing this. They know it. They simply don't care. Sometimes we, as the people that are culturally sensitive, that are caring, we're giving people beyond a doubt. You know, some people say it's God's will, that's foolishness. And other people say, well, they made a mistake. No, slavery and enslavement was not a mistake. Kidnapping, bodies, selling them. There's some people that still have that mentality from then until now. If you look at the case in West Virginia that just happened of a couple, an extreme case, but it's so relevant because it just got settled in the last week or two, a couple that picked up 5 black children and had them living in a shed like in slavery, and the couple was charged with slavery. So there is a sickness in this country historically, and that's a modern day example of what just happened. I'm as awed and shocked when I saw that. I even like repeating it because it sounds so outlandish, but it just happened. And I'm like, wow, there's still people that sick. And so, yeah, the same people that have that mentality are also in higher places in nicer suits that are willing to cut beyond the flesh to the bone of denying people these essential life-saving services. And they have enough resources. They don't need these hospitals. And to tell you the truth, they have so many people around them that have the same amount of money. They don't even see people outside of that circle. Down in Mar-a-Lago, they've got a banquet hall with a catwalk stage, like for a model runway show where Mr. Musk and Mr. Trump go down there. And, I mean, they have a party down there every weekend. I hear about it. I've got people that I know that go down there that are filling with these people. I mean, it's just the level of wealth is now creating a level of decadence in society, and they have total indifference. Who can be against diversity? Who can be against equity? Who can be against inclusion? The same people that are against Jackie Robinson's grave, Colin Powell's grave, Reverend Martin Luther King's life and living and work, the same people against health care for all, it's the same side. So now you got to ask, what side are you on?
Wow. Back with more of Keep Up Alive in just a few minutes. If you want more of this talk, please come to the Push meeting at the Operation Push headquarters, Dr. King's workshop, Saturday from 10 to 11. We're on the Word Network. You can go to rainbowpush.org and see it, but you need to come and be there in person. Congressman Jackson is there every Saturday that he is in town. And we're inviting everybody to show up so that we can get the information. Call 202-224-3121. Get in touch with your representatives and with all representatives. Let them know that what's happening is something that you're not up for. You got to let them know. You got to let them know. When we move, they move. When we don't move, they think they can get away with this. This is a whole lot. Back with more of Keep Hope Alive in just a few minutes. I'm Santita Jackson. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. See, it's so cold in here. Coughing. Ugh. We had a dance to that when I was in grammar school.
All right, let me get John Nichols.
Okay. Congressman Jackson
Yes, babe.
and Reverend Dr. Yeary. Is Reverend Dr. Yeary on or did he leave?
I'm still here.
I'm bringing on John
Keep
Nichols.
Hope Alive.
Do you all know about this this big Wisconsin Supreme Court race?
Yep, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Musk has 20 million in it so far.
In the Supreme Court race?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Is what's being reported on his affiliated PACs.
And he
In a state Supreme Court race. Let's be clear.
In one seat.
John Nichols.
Good morning, John Nichols. I'm gonna get you locked in with Santita and Keep Hope Alive, okay?
Sounds great. Thank you.
We have a man?
Yep.
John Nichols?
Hey, Santita. Hi, how are
Hey,
you?
I've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson on and Reverend Dr. Todd Yeary.
Good man, both. Hey, how are you both? I am in prayerful good company with Reverend Uri, and I think we're both praying for Jonathan because if he's working in Washington, he's going to need it.
Absolutely.
That's a pleasure, my friend. So many struggles to do. I'm loving all the stuff you're doing, Congressman. I was very impressed. I've been very impressed with some of the letters you've signed and some of the solidarity you've shown. It's been really important.
Well, thank you. If I missed something, please tell me. Sometimes they're coming so fast, you just miss some that you meant to sign on to.
I know.
When people ask me about a crisis, I'm like, which one?
Exactly. But I think you were one of the small group that signed on to that initial letter for Mahmoud Khalil, and that was very important.
Well, it starts with him, but who else can get kidnapped and taken? You know.
Oh no! I think it's fair to say the first step, right? They see if they can get away with it legally and in other ways. And then one of these days you're going to see somebody who is not an immigrant, right? And that's where it's going to, go to the next stage. And you just have to be vigilant.
Yeah, and then
which I know you are, by the way.
Well, thank you. There was a soccer player. He got detained and had a tattoo. They said he was part of the Venezuelan gang. He simply had a soccer ball with a crown on it. He got detained by the ICE officials. There's the person that got sent back to Lebanon or somewhere.
She was a doctor.
University.
The woman, the woman who got sent back to Lebanon. Yeah.
The kidney specialist. And there's other ones I've got across the phone. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? There's a Canadian. Canadian that got detained, and people showing up. Here's one of the things I'm concerned about. Because they're going to these databases, and these guys are like part of that generation of the fathers of big data.
Oh, they live on it. They all live on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so once you get the IRS files, you get the Office of Personnel Management files, you get the contracts, and you get the student loans, and you just throw this up on the board and let the algorithms and the math sort it out. Now you know precisely where people are. So
Yep.
they're going to be able to do
their
surgical pickup at school.
their pressure point.
Oh, hold on. I put some of
Yeah.
this on the air, everybody, because I mean that's why this Congressman Jackson just told me that Musk has put money into the race that we're talking about, the Wisconsin race.
Well, it's at least 12 million, and it's probably at this point 14 or 15 million.
Hold that thought. Hold on. We're coming up.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. You didn't think we'd get things going this hard this morning, did you?
We got it going.
Greenville? Oh, my gosh. It is a whole lot. We've got Congressman Jonathan Jackson from the 1st Congressional District of Illinois. We have Reverend Dr. Todd Geary, Senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore, Maryland, also of Rainbow Push. And we have got John Nichols. We are catching him, Congressman Jackson, and Reverend Dr. Geary ought to be particularly proud before he goes to church. So he only has about 15 minutes or so with us. But, this will be the lead in to you, John Nichols. Congressman Jackson, you were saying that a lot of your colleagues are afraid of being primaried by Musk funds.
And that's on primarily the Republican side. If you look at the way the Republican Party set up, they primary each other. So with Miss Hagman beating Mrs. Liz Cheney, that was a primary election, they will get these super PACs and others to go against one another in their primaries. And what Senator Murkowski of Alaska said this past week, she said, at least in her quote, that they're concerned that the richest man on earth could put up X amount of money that he just made, another $1 billion on Starlink or some other government contractor that he owns, and primary them. And I also started looking at some of the filings. Many of these persons started asking for removal of judges. I saw that Mr. Musk maxed out his personal contribution of $6,600 to them individually. One of the reasons I have the theory that Mr. Trump moves out of Washington every weekend and goes down to Mar-a-Lago, it's just not golfing, but he's able to go on private property and meet with a lot of donors and business persons, and that's excluded from the financial reporting as well as the public record. So he's able to have lobbying meetings all weekend long and come back with, new directives. Yes, and so Mr. Musk has put up, from what I read, over $20 million in 2 related PACs, and he's doing something that's weird, of $100 per person that is signing something. I don't know, he's spending money like crazy. But then again, this is the same guy that was doing $1 million a day giveaway in Pennsylvania when they were coming down to the wire. So he's talking with breaking the law on all these election issues.
Well, that leads us to this consequential election. I've seen the reports. Democrats are pushing very hard to get the Black community out in this consequential Wisconsin Supreme Court race. John Nichols, The Nation magazine, helps to understand what's going on, because you said Elon Musk has already poured, you said, what, $12 million at least?
At least $12 million. Wisconsin has Supreme Court election on April 1st, and it's going to be the first real test of Musk's money, and also in many ways of reaction at the ballot box, of reaction to what Trump and Musk are doing in Washington. There's a very, very right-wing candidate, a guy named Brad Schimmel, who is a big backer of all the assaults on voting rights and all sorts of other rights when he was Attorney General of Wisconsin as a Republican serving with Scott Walker. The other candidate is Susan Crawford. She's a longtime prosecuting judge and labor lawyer. She's very, very distinguished lawyer and attorney in Wisconsin. In most circumstances, Crawford would have a clear advantage in this race for a variety of reasons. But Musk has intervened. He, as early as January, was encouraging support for Schimmel. He's now put in at least $12 million. He's essentially, in many ways, taken over many of the functions of the Republican Party. They're paying people to go drop literature at doors, to knock on doors, things of that nature. Also funding really vicious attacks, which are often inaccurate. So inaccurate that at one point,
because Musk doesn't know Wisconsin or the people around him. They put out a digital ad that features a wrong picture of Susan Crawford. It was somebody else. But they're just pouring the money in. And here's the bottom line. If they win the Wisconsin race, the balance on the court, which is now 4-3 on the liberal side, would switch to a 4-3 very, very right-wing conservative side. And that's something that's a big deal for Trump and Musk, because many of the cases that they're involved in, or many of the actions they're involved in, will show up in state courts. And there's one other thing. Musk, through Tesla, his company, has just filed a lawsuit in Wisconsin to try and overturn Wisconsin's laws as regards car dealerships. So he literally has interest, big financial interest in the state. And so this is what we're seeing. Massive money pouring in. I have little doubt that by the time we get to Election Day on April 1st, it could be 20 million or more. And this is the thing to understand. It so comes off what Congressman Jackson was saying. Elon Musk, on some days, makes more money than we used to spend on an entire presidential race. Not that many years ago. He could easily make a couple $1 billion. And so for him, $20 million is the equivalent of you know, me taking Congressman Jackson down to the coffee shop and buying him a coffee, right? It for Musk, it's almost nothing. But for our politics in a state like Wisconsin, it's very consequential. And so the last thing I'll say on this, or the most important thing, is the only way you counter that is with grassroots activism. And there's a lot of amazing grassroots activism going on. Susan Crawford and her campaign have focused a tremendous amount of energy on Milwaukee and Beloit and Racine, cities that have substantial African American population. They're working hard to get the black vote out, as is Mandela Barnes, the former lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, and others, because they recognize that this is a really consequential election for women, for people of color, for young people, because this is a very, very powerful court. It will decide not just your standard legal issues, but it often weighs in on challenges to elections. And notably, in 2000, this was the court that blocked Trump narrowly from pursuing his big lie strategy as regards the election. If you put this very, very right-wing candidate, Brad Schimmel, on the court, there's every evidence that he would be there as a ally and defender of Trump and Musk and all their initiatives. So it's a very big deal, and Musk is in with a very large amount of money.
Is the push working on the ground? Because I saw a CNN report yesterday, and they went into the black barbershop, and you still have some black men who are resisting the Democratic Party for a whole lot of reasons.
Well, this is an interesting thing, Tantita. This is not a Democrat versus Republican election, even though everybody knows which side everybody's on. This is a nonpartisan election, so it's just the two names on the ballot. And for people who are upset with the Democratic Party, and I think you and I might often be in that company, this is about something more. It's really about the judiciary. And is the push working? Well, what I can tell you is that in the presidential election last year, there was a very substantial effort to mobilize the black vote, the Latino vote, in Milwaukee, and it was quite successful. Never as successful as you want, right? But notable, and it did have a good impact. Mandela Barnes, the former lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, who has been a real leader on a lot of these issues and in voter mobilization, getting people to the polls. I think that they've developed some pretty good strategies there. But the answer to your question will come on April 1st. And that's both the joy of elections, if you will, but also the frustration and the fear. You ultimately don't know, because elections in Wisconsin, which is such a battleground state, are no longer so much about
switching voters, like getting somebody on one side to switch to the other side. They're more about mobilization. They're about getting people to the polls. And in Wisconsin, we know that the only way that progressives win is if you have a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition that reaches deep into our cities, but also into our countryside. Remember, some of our largest Latinx population is in small towns, where they're revitalizing main streets, they're working the farms, working in the factories. And so it really has to be a statewide mobilization. It has to be done in a smart and serious way that speaks to people's real concerns. And finally, perhaps most importantly, it has to overcome many of the barriers that Republicans in the state legislature erected to voter turnout. And that's a challenge. There's no question of that. But it's been, as you know, in Wisconsin, a long-term fight going back to at least 2011 with the great efforts to save labor union rights. And in recent years, progressives have done very well. They've won 3 major Supreme Court races in a row. This is the 4th challenge for them. If they win this, they will have a clear majority on the court, and that will be a majority that is very likely to defend women's rights, the rights of people of color, the rights of young people. So it's very, very important for folks who can vote on April 1st to get out and vote.
Congressman Jackson, let me ask you, because you did a lot of campaigning in the 2024 cycle for Democrats. What do the Democrats need to say to rouse the base? Congressman? Okay, is he still there? No worries.
It's about fighting back. I mean, here, follow the logic. It's about not abortion, it's about women's health and women's reproductive rights. When you start putting hands on women's bodies, it's about controlling them. So you can't let them weaponize these words and we fall into the same trap. It's about fighting back and standing up for diversity, equity, and equality. There's only one person in the country that's led the charge of saying diversity is bad. E. Pluribus Unum. If we have to have a discussion about race and class, we are mature enough. Let's have the conversation on if there should be reparations for the African American community, what that would look like, if there needs to be programs extended for the marginalized communities to be uplifted, so one side of town doesn't look like it's bombed out, or another part of town is a glistening tower. If we need to talk about what does healthcare look like for the average American and life expectancy and housing and education and opportunity that represents equality and inclusiveness, how can we work with people that have autism and have different abilities? What programs should the government have in place? We need to have a mature conversation, not running away saying, oh, that's a boogeyman word. You can't say that. You can't stand with these people. You can't stand with their policies. I'm really lost sometimes as to what Democrats are standing for, because you can't say, I stand for diversity. It's American value. Don't let this man take these words out of our mouth. What's left? So for the class of 2025, starting this spring, African American and women and children of color are going to have less opportunity in our lifetime than I've had in mine. And it's simply wrong. And we can't kowtow to the man that's against all this stuff. He's also intimidating law firms, governors, racing police firms out of the military. Look at what he's doing. So by definition, you ought to be on the other side and resist everything he's doing, because it's so wrong. He's saying with Putin, he's against Zelensky. He cut off food and malaria and HIV money. Everything he's doing is just antithetical and immoral to everything that we believe in.
John Nichols, help me to understand what's next. I see that this is the 23rd, so you have a week. This race is a week away. What is it looking like?
Like you've never seen this much money spent in a judicial race in the history of the United States. There is talk of $100 million spent on this race. $100 million. That's what the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign suggested. They've been tracking the money that's been flowing in. Even if it's a little below that, the fact is it'll definitely be the most expensive in the history of the country. And we have to ask ourselves, when people are pouring that kind of money into electing judges, right? That is a warping of our political processes. Bernie Sanders always reminds us that, the original sin to the current American experiment is our failure to do campaign finance reform, the Citizens United ruling and things of that nature. This is a big deal. It is clearly a situation where very, very wealthy people, particularly Elon Musk, are trying to buy a Supreme Court seat. They literally last week, Elon Musk was, and one of his political action committees or group was offering people $100 if they would sign a petition, quote unquote, opposing activist judges. And this is just in Wisconsin. But here you have a case where there's so much money there that they're literally doing things like that. And of course, it's raised objections. But at the end of the day, the only way that we can stop this is by coming out to vote. And voting in the spring election is a little bit harder. It's not a little difficult to vote, but it's just people aren't as inclined. They tend to think of November as election time. But this is the definitional election. And I will tell you, it's very intense in Wisconsin. There are a lot of lies. There's a lot of misinformation and disinformation flying around. But if you cut to the quick, if you just go to the core of it, you have Susan Collins, an attorney who spent a lifetime as a prosecutor, a state assistant attorney general.
Greetings, family.
And as a public interest lawyer, fighting for unions and for civil rights and economic and social and racial justice on one side, saying that she wants to follow the rule of law, follow the Constitution, do what's right. And then you have another candidate, Brad Schimmel, who is a former Republican attorney general, who literally backed all of Scott Walker's initiatives, and Scott Walker was the most right-wing governor in the history of Wisconsin, and really laid the groundwork for Trump and Trumpism with his assault on labor and other initiatives, and who has openly suggested that he would create a network of support for Trump, presumably on the court. And so this is a very clear choice. It's actually a very easy choice. But when you have that much money being spent, when you literally have tens of millions of dollars flowing in, that can obscure the clarity. It can obscure what people should understand. So in the next week, there's going to be a lot of efforts to get to clarity, a lot of campaigning, and if on April 1, Susan Crawford wins that election, the message out of Wisconsin is going to be huge, precisely for what the congressman was just talking about. Remember, the congressman was just saying that Republicans are afraid to stand up to Elon Musk because they fear that there'll be primaries. Well, if Wisconsin rejects a candidate who's funded massively by Elon Musk, that's a message not just to Democrats, but also to Republicans that they can vote their conscience. They don't have to fear Elon Musk as much as they seem to think that they should now. So this is a very big deal, not just for Wisconsin, but for national politics.
Everybody think about it. Hope you will each one reach one, teach one. Get people out to vote in Wisconsin, but also be vigilant where you are, because monies are being poured into campaigns from coast to coast. That was Elon Musk's promise coming into the Trump administration, that he would pour monies into campaigns. Anyone who was against them, he said, I'm going to take you out. At least I'm going to pour my money in and try to ensure that happens. I'm going to continue on with Dr. David Gibbs, author of The Revolt of the Rich, How the Politics of the 1970s Widened the Class Divide, kind of moves into this oligarchy tour, just railing against the oligarchy that Senator Bernie Sanders is on. Thousands of people are coming out. Back with Both People Alive in just a few minutes. It's so cold in here. But,
Yeah.
John Nichols, thank you so much.
blessing to be with you always. And I'm literally outside of our meeting house, so I'm going to walk in and put my head in a different place.
Well,
But,
praise the Lord.
Hey, John, let's get that, man. Appreciate you.
I love you, brother. Be strong.
Love you,
Keep
man.
doing the great work
I'll
you're
come
doing.
next week. You the same. I'll get you next week. All right, bro.
Okay, man.
Okay. I'll make sure you all have each other's numbers.
Good morning, Dr. Gibbs. I'm going to get you locked in with Cynthia to
Thank
keep up alive, okay?
Thank you, John. Love you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have Dr. Gibbs on, and then Chris from Oak Park is on hold.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Congressman Jackson was
Yep.
okay. I want you to meet Dr. David Gibbs. He's a brilliant historian out of the University of Arizona. And he has a tremendous book, The Revolt of the Rich, How the Politics of the 1970s Widened America's Class Divide. But he's had so much clarity on, just on international politics. And I certainly want to connect the two of you to one another. And this is Congressman Jonathan Jackson, my baby brother, with whom I'm well pleased.
How are you? Great. I look forward to hearing from you. Keep up the great work.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate your sister's work too.
Oh, he's just very sweet to me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I'm in this cold studio. I can't wait to get out of here. What is it, 20 degrees in here? Stirring up my asthma. This is crazy. It's terrible. I'm like, ugh. So, look, Dr. Gibbs and Congressman Jackson, it's all coming out. Whew. This is a lot. Congressman Jackson was talking about all of the monies that Musk is pouring into these primary challenges. And Jonathan, I got about 30 seconds. You were saying that your colleagues are afraid.
Oh, physically and financially. So for the persons that said that they would help sponsor a bill to remove these judges that they consider to be outlaw, impeaching them, mysteriously $6,600 goes up in their account as letter of support. That's one sort of financial. The other part is they can do the PACs that you can't see until later on that further support, sustain. And people don't have an idea of this magnitude of money that's in politics now. It's insane. Individuals can give $7,000 as a maximum contribution for primary in general in these congressional, in these federal seats, but there's unlimited amounts that you can put up. Wealthy people can put up in a PAC to go for you or against you. So yes, that's the powder that Trump keeps drying. That's the powder he keeps over the head of all these senators and congressional people. And it's really not just a friendship, it's a veiled threat by keeping Musk on the stage with him. So every member in their caucus knows, don't you forget. And look at what happened to the other ones. And look at all those persons that voted against him that voted for impeachment. I think there's only 2 people left.
Oh my gosh.
Primaries.
And the other ones ran out of Congress. Hold on. I'm coming in. Hold on. Woo. Hey, everybody. Keep up alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Hope you'll be joining us at Operation Push Out, our Saturday morning forum. It has been going on for about 60 years. And yes, we are still meeting and still talking every Saturday that Congressman Jackson is in town. He is there letting us know, not just in Chicago, but nationally and internationally, what is happening in Washington. It's the hottest ticket in America, going to these congressional town hall meetings. And of course, he's on the front lines of that struggle in Washington, D.C., Congressman Jonathan Jackson, 1st Congressional District of Illinois. We do hope that you'll join us at Rainbow Push at our international headquarters of the Push Forum at 930 East 50th Street on Saturday. Every Saturday from 10 to 11 Central Standard Time. Go to the Word Network so that you can see it. Go to rainbowpush.org so that you can stream it. And Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Facebook pages. You've got to see what's going on because there's a lot happening. As we bring up Dr. David Gibbs, a family member of this show, The Revolt of the Rich, How the Politics of the 70s have really widened the class divide. Before I bring him on, Congressman Jackson was talking about all of this money, talk about the revolt of the rich, Congressman Jackson. You were saying that, I mean, it's amazing. I don't think we know how the dark money is being poured in from everywhere. I mean, you look up and you have a contribution you didn't even count on, right?
Correct. And let me just go with some simple math, because some people are a little bit bewildered by it, and I taught math, and you can really understand it. I just want to tell you a million, a billion, a trillion. A million, convert that into seconds. A million seconds equals 11.7 days. A million seconds, 11.7 days. A billion seconds is 31 years. 31 years versus 11 days, a billion seconds. And a trillion seconds is 31,000 years.
Whew.
So when you talk about this $1 trillion tax cut, you're talking about money that's going to go to the wealthiest people already in America. And although they do talk about the top 1%, it's really not even, it's even more skewed than that. When I was at the inauguration and I could see in the Capitol 8 people on the stage from TikTok to Amazon to Meta to Microsoft to Starlink and Twitter, when you just see 8 people that have more wealth than 330 million people, than 330 million just minus 500 families. That's how skewed the wealth is. So when people talk about, I need a tax, and yes, you do. We're not talking about taxing you. We're talking about taxing those that have over 70% of the wealth. The 8 people that have more wealth than 300 million people. And so when Mr. Sanders and I support what he and AOC and others are doing, oligarchy may be a word that people don't necessarily ring with. When you think of 8 people, that's an oligarchy that control the media channels, that have that level of concentration and wealth. If you make money, you should pay taxes. If you don't make money, you don't pay taxes. That's a good system. But the people who are working the hardest, they have the lowest income, and wages pay the most taxes. People with that level of wealth pay less taxes than you, proportionally. So that's what the fight is for, Santita. And there's ginormous sums of money. Mr. Musk putting up to date over $13 million for 1 seat in Wisconsin, offering $100 for people that are signing a ballot or petition. That was offering $1 million a day in raffles going into Pennsylvania. American people cannot be bought. And so he should not have the right to move those sort of funds all across the country, going into districts where he does not live and has not visited.
Dr. Gibbs, that tease it up for you, because we're seeing the revolt of the rich. They are overturning the gains that we saw come to fruition in the 60s. And we saw it played out in the 70s. And yet they have pushed back, and they've pushed back hard. And we're seeing it on full display now. Please explain what we are seeing.
In many ways, we're seeing with Trump is the continuation of the Trump we've seen since the 70s. Trump obviously seems like a bizarre and sort of aberrant figure, a break with the past, and stylistically he is a break with the past. But in terms of economic policy, this is a kind of sort of free market economics, the elimination of the welfare state, the elimination of the infrastructure of the welfare state. That really has been the agenda since the 70s and has been in progress since the 70s. It's been a bipartisan project, by the way. I don't want to present this in partisan terms because it isn't necessarily partisan. It's been both parties have been pushing it. But what we're seeing is free market economics on steroids, really, with the advent of Elon Musk and Doge. It goes beyond anything Reagan did. He talked about abolishing the Department of Education, but he didn't actually do it. It looks as if Trump and Musk may actually do it. They're certainly saying they're going to do it. I think they mean it this time. There's a real disconnect here between their style of leadership, which is extremely populist, and also their base, which is indeed populist. The working class is vote Republican this time. And not only whites, but also people of color, particularly, again, in my state, Arizona, Latinos, I think very foolishly, in my view, they didn't. I think that advance their own interest. But in their view, they're voting for Trump because they saw him as representing kind of a populist image. But the image and the reality are very different here. And what Trump is going to do is going to cause considerable harm, I think, to the very people who voted for him. And so that's a real tragedy. I think the culture wars have played a big role in this. The image of the culture wars, the woke issue, whatever that means, that's been a very useful factor in distracting people. And so I think we're now seeing the playing out of something that's been going on for 50 years, reaching a high point, you might say, in terms of really eviscerating what little is left of the New Deal.
You know, what does Musk represent? I mean, how did we get here? I mean, to a South African, no less, who is pushing back against brown and black migrants, but he's trying to pull Afrikaners in, and he's pouring money into elections from coast to coast to completely change our government.
And there are a number of angles to this. One is he indeed was born in South Africa during the apartheid era, and part of a coterie of people, including David Sachs and Peter Thiel, who are connected to the apartheid era, were very close to the Trump administration. And they do seem to have a real affinity for... at first I was somewhat dismissive of this possibility, but everybody saw the Stig Heil he gave during the inauguration. That was incredible. And the sort of symbolism, that was really incredible. You couldn't simply sort of whitewash that away. So there's that. There's definitely some element of kind of almost a racialized conception of inequality, but there's also just old-fashioned greed. The fact of the matter is, Musk is worth, we don't really know the exact figure, but it's somewhere well over $300 billion probably. And that's pretty close to the gross domestic product of Finland. 1% Finland, basically. That kind of wealth concentration is incredible, but I think it does indicate a certain conception of the world that is the rich should be able to do what they want and earn as much money as they want. And public policy should be run by them, and is being run, in this case, by President Musk. And I think he's doing something that is very consistent with an ideology that favors the rich over everyone else. And he's eviscerating programs that have over decades sought to at least reduce somewhat the economic inequalities that have occurred from the system. And so I would say the main motivation here is just old-fashioned greed and the callousness of the very rich, possibly combined with an element of the old apartheid system.
Congressman Jackson, do you have a comment? This is really profound.
With those comments, and they're absolutely brilliant, and it's fact. And you got to think about the world view that Mr. Musk grew up in. It's a South Africaneer, from the hand over the chest and the salute, from his affiliation with the AFD in Germany. He can't hide it. When people get to a certain level of wealth, they can't hide. You can't hide money. You walk different, you talk different, you can say what you want, you do what you want, you build what you want. And he doesn't think that the average person should have his level of influence. And so that's what the Supreme Court has sided with, and letting this untold amount of money, letting rich people spend money in districts they don't live in. Why should you have influence and freedom of speech in districts that you don't live in and have limited amounts? Why can't they play by the same level playing field and saying this is the cap? So if you got $1 trillion, you still can't spend more than the maximum allowed to an individual as a human being. But you can do it for a corporation, it's wrong. But in this whole South African era, we ended up expelling Mr. Rubio, told the South African ambassador he's no longer welcomed here because they have their right to sovereignty and self-determination. So the South African ambassador has been expelled from the United States of America. And no, they don't think it's a radical idea to have one man, one vote. And these people really don't believe every vote should count and that the rich shouldn't have more votes than the poor. It's a mentality
It's unbelievable. Let me go to Chris. He's been holding for a minute. Chris, what's on your mind? What's your question or comment? Good morning.
And much love to your father and his family.
Well, blessings to you.
The current president is the billionaire president for the billionaires, and Democrats, they have to fight, be out in the forefront and tell the people what's going on every day, run ads, town halls, which I can't say they're not doing. You know, they could be doing it behind the scenes, and, you know, I know Bernie and AOC is kicking it off. I know Johnson's been out in the forefront. They have to let the people know, because the people with the Project 2025 is so dangerous. You can't think the billionaire class is for the common people. We cannot definitely think that. And how in the heck can you have less rights than 60 days ago when this individual took office? And kind of shame on us, and it shows where politics have gone. We gave him the keys last time to the economy, and he crashed it, and we gave him the car keys again. So I think we need a checkup from the neck up, and we got to keep fighting. And the judges who are pushing back, because every executive order still has to be constitutional and lawful. And the way, and Elon Musk, God doesn't like ugly, and he ain't too crazy about pretty. That's why the stock is down over 50%, and he's lost over $100 billion. And around the world, he's being rejected. And I just wish the GOP side wasn't so reckless and scared to be primary to fight back for the American people. But I do believe there's going to be, a price to pay for this, and the hurt that's going around. People lost jobs, false claims, and the Doge has to clean up their numbers daily from what they're saying they're saving. And the Doge, we need a Doge against Elon Musk, because he's closing departments that were investigating his company and how he treated employees in California and moved the headquarters to Texas, crashing cars, autonomous vehicles crashing, and recalls. That needs to be looked at. But again, where politics has gone and the Republicans fight, they're going against the Constitution. And it's more of us than the billionaire class, but we have to constantly fight back every day so we can't lose the gains that we made. And if you look at it, when the Republicans take hold of the office, 10 of the last 11 recessions occurred.
Sure.
Since 1989, 50 billion jobs were created by Democrats compared to 1 million Republicans. Thank you for taking my call.
Sending you so much love, Chris. Dr. Gibbs, have we ever seen anything like this before? I have about 2 or 3 minutes before we go to break.
We certainly have, in the sense that with regard to the neoliberalism aspect, the free market economics that I mentioned, this is something that began in the late 70s. I'm sorry to say, it probably did begin at the end of the Carter presidency, continuing with the Reagan presidency. And now we're seeing it come into full flower. I don't think we've ever seen it with this kind of intensity and this kind of speed, just the shock and awe that we're seeing now. But the basic idea of dismantling the welfare state, dismantling the federal government to administer the welfare state, this is not a new idea, unfortunately. This is something that has a real consistency. And again, it's so easy to dismiss the Trump administration as sort of a weird exception. And in some respects, it is a weird exception. But the free market aspect, what Musk is doing, the ideology behind it, that's been with us for a long time.
I'm going to get some closing thoughts from Congressman Jackson and from Dr. David Gibbs on the other side of the break. Hope to see you at Rainbow Push on Saturday. We have this kind of conversation on Saturday, Sunday, and you have it all through the week on my radio show, where you can find Dr. David Gibbs. And Congressman Jackson when I can catch up with him. Things are so busy, so hectic up on the Hill and out here in the United States. I am on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. And you can go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel, where many of you are right now, and see the show. We'll be taping this afternoon as well. We're going to get some closing thoughts, and doesn't mean we're closing out the topic. The topic is open. We want you to continue to engage us. Engage Congressman Jonathan Jackson. Reach out to him online and go to his town hall meetings. They are so exciting and engaging. You get a chance to hear from the ground what is happening on Capitol Hill. Get the book, The Revolt of the Rich, everybody. If you want to find out why we're here, how we got here, this book takes you all the way through the 70s to now, because the 70s came out of the 60s. We made so many gains. I want to get them back, but we're going to have to fight, everybody. Back with more closing thoughts on Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Back in just a few minutes.
If we just let it be, na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it, girl, just you and me.
Well, Congressman Jackson and Dr. Gibbs, you all can engage each other. Wait, do we need to turn this down? Oh, wait, hold on one moment, Congressman. We're turning everything down so you can hear. Okay?
No, I'm sorry. I got to run into a church.
Love you.
Let's do it. Bye. Bye, brother.
Okay. Whew. Dr. Gibbs,
Yes, sir.
there is so much that is going on. I'm gonna give you closing thoughts.
Fine.
But my brother was saying that people, that his colleagues feel, well, they are being physically threatened on the Hill as well. You know, they have Proud Boys and Oath Keepers roaming the halls, literally.
I've heard that in various parts of the country, including here in Arizona. I've heard that's been happening. Yes.
Oh yeah.
Crazy atmosphere.
It's just this well, it's not unbelievable. I mean, come on.
No, unfortunately, it's not unbelievable.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I talking about? I act like I'm not a Black American who didn't live through domestic terror. I mean, whose ancestors lived through domestic terror.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, there is that. But boy, oh boy, to see these meetings, they're heartbreaking, because I don't care who you voted for, quite frankly. When you see people who are in fear, that just breaks my heart, because I know not only is their pain real, many of these people are going to have to try and figure out how to eat.
Yeah.
Dr. Gibbs, I mean, how to eat, how to stay housed. That's where the rage is coming from. These are people getting up and going to work, or who want to work every day. And, you know, they were promised, for people who voted for President Trump, they thought they were going to get a guy who was going to go in there and turn over the tables, so to speak, to use the biblical reference, and make things right. That's what they thought. Many of them, what is it? Of course, racism is in it, but racism was in Biden too. Racism is part of the fabric of the United States. Okay, it is. I'm not dismissing it. You know, is there an element of white supremacy that, you know, that President Trump, he took the low-hanging fruit? Did he push that? Yes. But the other piece is this: he didn't get these Black voters on that, or the Latino voters on that. Not all of them.
Right.
No. He got them on turning over the tables. And look at where we are, Dr. Gibbs.
It's been it's what I call fake populism. It's basically it's the style of populism completely without the substance of populism. And it's worked. I criticize the Democrats for not being effective in responding to it.
Mm-hmm.
But Trump's been very effective in terms of casting himself as a man of the people. As absurd as that may be, it obviously swayed a lot of people, and it's been pretty broad in its effects, and it's the opposite of what he's doing.
Well, you know, I guess he did it in his fashion, because moving from Queens to Manhattan is its own. There is a class divide in New York, and it's something that, quite frankly, he's been trying to punch up his whole career, because he never had the respect, you know, of the of the upper classes in New York. And that's something that's really bothered him, you know?
You can tell he has a chip on his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
You might say it's like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, he's been rich all his life from the time of child, but somehow he did feel like he was aggrieved. And the fact that he's aggrieved makes him appealing to people who are genuinely aggrieved, which he is not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, he's not. But, but also, as my brother was talking about politics, you're owned in politics. And he's not a free agent. I'm not saying that he would have behaved differently if he were. But, I think the good thing about this period is that we see all the things that have been buried, Dr. Gibbs, are now on full display.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true.
Oh, stand by.
Please email your questions.
Okay, we're going to have about 2.5 minutes, really. Hey, everybody. Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. Stay tuned to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. We will be taping this afternoon after 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. But we're talking with Dr. David Gibbs, getting some closing thoughts from him. The revolt of the rich. Boy, are they revolting. And they are revolting. So, with chainsaws on the stage, calling benefits that we have paid into, Dr. Gibbs, Ponzi schemes. You've got Secretary Lutnick saying that, it's the fraudsters who are whining, they're complaining if they don't get their checks from Social Security. Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. This is the revolt of the rich. Where do we go from here? I've got a couple of minutes for you.
I think what we're seeing is the Republicans are overreaching dramatically in a way that will undermine their popularity. They're eviscerating a whole series of programs that basically hurt people who voted for them. We talk about reducing Social Security or Medicare. That's going to be very damaging to them. So I think that this is not locked in, and it's still a matter of contestation. I think people need to contest this right now. Here in Tucson, we had yesterday, I think it was 20,000 people rallied with Bernie Sanders. And that's pretty big for Tucson.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 1 million people in the metro area. And so, Bernie Sanders is going all over the country holding these mass rallies. I think only he is able to do that. He's virtually the only one of the Democratic Party who really generate that kind of enthusiasm, those kinds of numbers. And it's really very heartening to see that this 83-year-old man is still able to do that.
Oh.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, he still has this kind of I would call it a strange charisma in the sense that his appeal is to the very young, that he's this old guy. But evidently he's able to pull it off. And I find that very much to his credit.
Absolutely.
We do need mobilization. We do need showing of numbers, showing of muscle, political muscle. And, we won't see results immediately. You never see results in politics, or rarely do you see them.
Mm-hmm. I
do think there's a very good chance Republicans will lose the House of Representatives in the election, and they will bury themselves possibly with their missteps. I think Musk is already making himself very unpopular with the public.
Oh, my gosh. Well, hold that thought. We're going to continue on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. In the meantime, on behalf of Ryan Lee and Santita Jackson, keep hope alive.
Thank you for listening to Keep Hope Alive with Reverend Jesse Jackson. For more information on upcoming shows and guests, please visit
Stay right there, everybody.
At www.keephopealiveradio.com.
I wanted you to complete your thought. You said you didn't think he did any favors with aligning himself with Elon Musk, but why did he do it then?
I think Trump is, he has an ideology of the very rich because that's where he comes from. And he can't disassociate himself from that ideology and that network of people. And he's kind of steeped in an idea that really is basically one of the rich to be able to do whatever they want. And that the national interest is the interest of people like him. And so despite his populist style, despite his use of very sort of simple language, which in a sense is a good thing, I wish the Democrats would learn from that and stop using words like intersectionality and things so seminar rooms. But despite that, his policies are completely different from what people imagine. I mean, people who shop at the Dollar General, a lot of them voted for Donald Trump, but they're going to be hurt very badly by his policies. They are being hurt by his policies.
I don't think he saw this coming.
I agree. That's why there's always a tendency. We're all in our bubbles. I think he's in his bubble, and I think he believes that because he speaks this populist language, he'll be able to hold this group of people who voted for him. Hold some of them for sure, just because they're diehards for just believe in Trumpism and MAGA and all that. But I do think people do follow their interest, and after a certain point, when they see their living standards are being harmed, he will lose support very quickly.
Well, you know what? Are there any parallels between this time and the social and political tumult that we saw coming out of the Gilded Age, moving into the 20s and 30s?
Well, sure. I mean, obviously, you had a backlash against plutocracy in the Gilded Age, and you had the rise of socialist movements, radical union movements, and clashes with police, who of course acted on behalf of the rich in those days, as they mostly do now. And it's, I think, basically every action has an equal and opposite reaction. That's true in physics, and it's true in politics. And I think you're starting to see a reaction against the plutocracy of the Trump era.
Well, wait a minute. Robert said, what are you talking about? Unbelievable. That Trump is prospering tremendously off of Musk. I want to make sure that I'm saying this correctly, Robert. So why don't you clarify what you mean about who Musk is and who he is to Trump and who he is in this moment? Or are we focusing on him too much?
Well, it's always wrong. I have to say, it's always a mistake to focus too much on one individual, because this is very much a class of people, a whole group of people, a whole series of, it seems, tech billionaires have moved radically in Trump's favor, including some that have previously been Democrats, supported Democrats. And I think the main thing that we're interested in is deregulation of things like Bitcoin and virtual currencies and so on. They want these things deregulated as much as possible. And I think they see Trump as their champion. He's going to do this for them. And so, people are focusing very heavily upon Musk because Trump is putting him in charge of this sort of super agency that seems to be almost above the law. He has no official position, really. He's never been confirmed by the Senate. He doesn't have to go through the confirmation process at all. And so I think basically Trump has sort of put him in center stage, and so it's quite natural people would focus on it. But I think he must be seen as part of a larger group, which is the billionaire class, and particularly a particular faction of the billionaire class that have moved sharply in favor of Trump. They see him as a deregulator. It should not be forgotten that most of the billionaires favored Harris. By all of the indications, basically, Harris had excellent support in the billionaire class. Let's not whitewash the Democrats here and sort of view them through rose-colored glasses, because that's always a mistake.
Yeah, because they've become so corporatized. I mean, there's virtually no difference in terms of policy and, quite frankly, in actions. In terms of the Democrats, they start reaching for black and brown people when they need votes, but when it comes to enacting policies, they go past us.
Well, most of that's true. I think Trump has surprised me even in terms of how far he's gone with this deregulation thing. That goes even beyond what the Democrats are doing, what previous Republican administrations have been doing. Again, this is deregulation on steroids that goes beyond past history. And I think basically there's kind of a shock and awe to it. He's circumventing the whole process of Congress, of congressional approval, and just acting by executive fiat and waiting for the court to stop him. Now, whether or not he'll obey court orders is yet to be seen. And if the courts, if and when, I'm sure some of this is going to have to be objected to by the courts, because some of it is so blatantly unconstitutional, abolishing birthright citizenship. I mean, that's clear as day in the 14th Amendment. I don't think you have a leg to stand on legally on that issue, and on many other issues. But will the court come down hard against his actions? Even the Roberts court, I suspect, is going to rule against some of his actions. What will he do? And the answer is a big question mark, and I have no idea what he'll do.
Well, I think it's a very unsettling time for so many people. Is there a ray of hope for people here?
Yeah, sure. There is definitely a ray of hope. I mean, we still do have elections. We still do have courts. And in the coming election, Trump is elected by the narrowest of margins. Yes, he did get a majority. He got 1.5%, but it's only by 1.5%. And so he's never been a popular figure. People forget that. He's never been popular. Just that the Democrats, unfortunately, have been less popular. And so I think the Democrats do have to clean up their act. They made a lot of mistakes over many decades. And again, I focus very heavily upon their style of going after people with advanced degrees and high incomes. That's, I think, morally the wrong thing to do. It's also politically the wrong thing to do. There just aren't enough people who are high income and high education. There just aren't enough of them to win elections. They largely have abandoned working class people. I think that was a huge mistake by the Democrats. But I think it's a correctable mistake. I think people will start to realize Trump is not favoring the working classes. He's hurting them. He's hurting them even more than the Democrats did. And so I do think basically he'll get a swing against him. And that's a good thing. That's supposed to be a good thing.
Well, I mean, I'm waiting to see, because I'm watching people now who they're asked when I see them asking about their Social Security checks, and you see people who are already facing the cuts. I mean, right now, too many. Well, not too many. That's the system was set up this way. It was supposed to give people a dignified retirement. Everybody deserves that. You're not supposed to be. I mean, when I go through a fast food restaurant, or if I sit down in a restaurant and I see older people working, I just thank God that my grandparents didn't have to do that, because we're seeing the elderly who are working.
That's right.
And I'm like, this is not the way this is supposed to work.
No, it's not. It's not a dignified retirement. Having to work at McDonald's when you're 75 or something like that. No. Yeah.
I mean, you got to get out of bed and catch the bus, because it's not even cost effective for them to drive to work. Are you kidding? That's what they're doing, standing in the cold or standing in the heat. I mean, that shortens your life. That is horrible.
I agree. I know. That's where we're at in America, and I think people like Musk, people like Trump don't really care about that. They don't really care about that issue. And a lot of these people you're describing voted for Trump. I think, again, because of the stylistic and cultural issues, partly and deep mistakes made by the Democrats. But I think that when they see that Trump is talking about cutting Social Security, for a lot of people, that's all they've got, Social Security. I think that is the third rail of American politics. And Trump is foolish enough to go there. He'll pay a heavy price for it.
Oh, I think he's going to do that, because now, see, it's one thing to see Black people angered, because that moves the country in a particular way. It does. But when you see all of these white Americans who are furious because, see, white people came to America, I don't need to tell you on a different proposition. Number one, they came here. We were dragged here. And we built the country, and we built a country that they were able to come to and get opportunity. It's all good. I just don't want I'm just upset that every time that Black people moved ahead, we would get undercut, bombed out of Tulsa, burned out of Rosewood, on and on and on and on. And there have been no reparations. So that's wrong. And that needs to be rectified. That having been said, they feel betrayed in another way, because America never betrayed them before. Even though, quite frankly, Dr. Gibbs, the oligarchies always run the place. I mean, I don't even think they understood that it was me too. Black folks get pneumonia, they get a cold. I get untreated, that means I die, but eventually you get pneumonia because they're not going to treat you either.
Yeah.
And these oligarchs don't care about their workers. For the most part, they don't.
No, they don't.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, George Carlin said, these people don't care about you.
Oh.
They really don't care about you. That's quite true.
It's a club and you ain't in it. That's what he said.
That is the way it works. Yeah. Santine, unfortunately, I have to go wake up my wife.
But thank you. Thank you for getting up so early with us today.
Sure. Thank you for having me on. I love being on your show.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to connect you to my brother. He wants to be connected with you.
Yes, I'd be delighted to do that. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Sending you so much love. My love to your beloved.
Thank you. And have a great day, Santine.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. You too. I love you, everybody. Woo. Here we are. So I will see you at 1 Central Standard Time. I don't know what time the next show is going to be. It's either going to be at 2 or 3. But we're going to be talking about this because we want to continue to have the conversation about where we are, because we're in a pickle, but we can get out of it. That's the good news. The good news is that trouble don't last always. Reverend Dr. Donald Parsons, brilliant anointed preacher, said even clouds run out of rain. But let me tell you something. Remember, clouds run out of rain, but you cannot run out of gas. Now is the time for you to take your country into your own hands. The country belongs to you. The government is of, for, and by the people. And these people rule by our consent. These people aren't better than you. You are somebody. This is your government. It's your country. Claim it. But don't just claim it for yourself. Claim it for everybody else. I think that's sometimes a mistake that a lot of us make. A lot of us make that mistake. We vote for ourselves. Everything is okay until we lose our house, until we lose our jobs, until we can't afford to rent our apartment or our house. As long as your neighbor is in trouble, you are too. Trouble is coming your way. So stop the trouble. Stop the trouble. Stop the trouble. Stop it. And let's care about everybody, because we are one. And I think the blessing of this time is that we're all going to find out that we are one. We're all in the same pickle. We're all in the same barrel. Nobody is exempt. Nobody. And so let's not be accusatory as we look at people who voted one way or another. Just stop it, because people vilify Kamala supporters and they vilify Trump supporters. Enough. Nobody's getting a check. I was just saying, people vilify the Trump supporters and the Kamala supporters. The thing is, everybody's in the same jam. Ain't nobody getting a check. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to get mad at anybody.
We all in this.
Everybody's in this. Mm-hmm. So let it go. Let it go. Let it go. All you have to do is look at Bernie. Bernie's got a lot of Trump people out at his rallies right now. Yep. See, ageism, I kept telling you, ageism was never the point with Joe Biden. It was the state of his health. It was very clear that he was struggling. And not just struggling, that he had cognitive issues and that he should have been out of the race. Ryan, that was clear. So wait, enough of that. It was never ageism. The most popular elected official in the United States of America today is Bernie Sanders. He's 83 and he had a heart attack when he was running for president the last time. After he recovered from the heart attack, we wanted to know, hey, are you okay, Bernie? You good? You good? Okay, keep running. We didn't care about that. Nobody even talks about his heart attack now. Do you? You don't care. It's not that you don't care about his health. It's very clear you can come back from a heart attack. He's come back from it. He's all good. How about that? That's what we're thinking about. He wants to deliver for us. And we need to push. Age is never the issue. It's your intent. It's what you're going to do. It's your level of aggressiveness and who you are aggressive for or against. That's why I'm a Bernie-crat. That's why I am a Maxi-crat. Auntie Maxine Waters is almost 90. I don't care. I know when she goes in the room, she's fighting for me. If I were in LA, I'd be voting for her over and over and over and over again. And you're right, Renee. The Democrats stopped Bernie in 2016 and 2020 the same way they jammed Reverend in 84 and 80 and 88. And look at how it worked. It didn't. Oh, they won a few races, but they're losing. They're losing the battle, and they're losing battles, and they are absolutely losing the war. We need people who are going to stand up for us. And you know what? If people are not going to stand up for you, you need to retire them. People, what'd you say, Effie? I love you, Effie. People are saying that he and AOC shouldn't be out there. Well, of course, who's saying it? That's the question. I'm not even thinking about them. Tens of thousands of people at every stop. Somebody likes them up there. Now, you're right, Red. Dolores Huerta. All these people. No. I don't care. Ralph Nader. If you make some sense, come on. If you don't make some sense, stay away. Go on. I don't need this. Don't need it. So think about that, everybody. Think about it and pray on it. But start calling 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Call Republicans and Democrats and tell the Democrats to hold the line and tell the Republicans to get in line. Should Schumer retire or sit down? If he doesn't want to retire, I don't care. He should be retired. You got to hold the line. The Democrats did what they were supposed to do in the House. The Democrats in the Senate did not. You need 60 votes, Effie, in the Senate. Shutting down the government, a lot of this is going to get shut down in the courts. Somebody's got to go on record going against what is happening out here. Somebody's got to go on record. And the Democrats have to go on record. You can't capitulate. You have to lead the fight. These people are going to do that anyway. They're going to shut down these doors. A court ruling just said that they've got to reinstate all the workers from USAID. Give them their jobs back right now. Robert, you said they had to carry out Strom Thurmond at 100. Of course. That's right. But that, look, and he was, he was all of 100 and act like it. Okay. But you know what? If you are a Bernie Sanders who's got the energy and he's not going to run again. He said this is his last term. I want him. I want Maxine. There's no one else in the House like her. So, look, sometimes people serve their time and you have to let them go. But this is another time. Folks are not going to get their Social Security checks. Medicare and Medicaid, as we know it, is about to be changed profoundly, if not outright ended. You have a lot of sick people out here. You have a lot of spreads of disease. That's going to happen. And it shouldn't. But it will. We're the ones who have to tell them that this is unacceptable. We're the ones who have to tell them that, you know what? We don't want any more wars. I don't need a bomb. I need some bread. Boeing, you need to get into another line of work. Or maybe you need to figure out how to keep these planes up in the air without the windows blowing apart in the air. How about that part? Well, you know what? Effie, you said they told Congressman Ivey in Baltimore that he was too nice. The thing is, he's a very distinguished gentleman. He's not mean. He's not crass. He's not unkind. And he is a fighter. But they can push him and empower him to fight even harder. Because he has to have hit. Sometimes you need to have your people. Sometimes you need to have your people nipping at your heels to push you along. Because guess what? Not play tough, be tough. Effie, that's what you have to do. You have to get out here and hit it. But we have to make that happen, Effie. The voters have to make it clear to our representatives that we need them to represent. Yeah, but we get into someone, Effie Rolfe, legend in radio here in Chicago and really in the country. She said, you can tell he's well-spoken, calm, and businesslike. That's lovely. I don't need that right now. See, but, we place a high value on that because many people have thought that Black people were less educated, less capable than we are. So, we kind of, someone who is who might be a little someone who might not have someone who might be a little bit more bombastic and who push harder. Sometimes they might be a little embarrassing to us. They don't embarrass me. I need someone to get up there and be mad and overturn the tables in the temple just like Jesus did. People's lives are on the line, everybody. People's lives are on the line, and you must put fire under everybody. So when the congressman in both chambers, in the U.S. House of Representatives and in the Senate, when they go in there, they've got to say, now, you know what? If I don't do this, I'm losing votes. Every phone call you make, every email you send, every letter stands for X number of voters. Let me repeat. Every phone call, every email, every letter, even every visit, you stand for X number of voters. And believe me, they pay attention. I worked on the Hill for Congressman Gus Savage, and I was so glad because he explained it to me. He said, oh, no. He had us tracking all the calls. He and the lady who was his chief of staff, Luana Peters, who became the deputy governor of the state of Illinois, Deputy Governor Peters, said, no, she wanted to know where every call came from because he wanted to know where every call came from, and he wanted to know how many. Okay, what'd you say? That's what the nice white lady said out loud. We don't need you to be nice. Well, you know what? Decorum is a good thing, but we need you to fight. We need you to fight. And you see, so much, as you say, Robert, so much for the degrees. I want to know, do you have a fighting pedigree? See, I'm clear on why people sent my brother to Congress. He was a national spokesman for Rainbow Push. He took on the Chicago police all by himself. People said, yeah, he's Jesse Jackson's son. And you know what? We have a reputation for fighting. So enough. And I'm with you, Robert. Some people buy degrees. I don't care about that. I want to see what you can do. I'd rather give me 100, an infinite number of Rosa Parks and Fannie Lou Havers. They didn't go to college, but they freed us. Harriet Tubman didn't go to school, but she freed us. That's what matters to me. We need to get our priorities straight. And they didn't just free Black people, they freed America. Because everything that has advantaged Black people has advantaged everybody. Ending chattel slavery, it affected everybody. It lifted everybody. Civil rights lifted everybody. Fair housing lifted everybody. Securing the right to vote lifts everybody. Protecting it lifts everybody. Justice and policing lifts everybody. Protects everybody. Let's not be selfish, everybody. Get ready, Earl. You're right. Get ready to fight. Don't be too busy to make a phone call tomorrow on that Hill. Do it. Our lives depend upon it. I love you, everybody. I'm getting out of here. I'm going to go give my father some carrot cake, give my mom and dad a hug and kiss, bring her some butter cookies. Then I'm going to get ready to see you at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Love you.